One rainy afternoon, I was helping my parents clean out my grandmother's old house. It had been abandoned for years, left untouched since she passed. I remember being told to stay out of the attic as a kid, but now that I was older, I couldn't resist the urge to explore it. The attic was dark and musty, with cobwebs hanging from the beams. As I pushed aside a few old boxes, I spotted a wooden chest tucked away in the farthest corner, almost hidden by the shadows. My heart raced a little as I dragged it into the light. The wood creaked as I pried it open, revealing a pile of faded quilts, brittle with age. But underneath them something caught my eye, a thick, leather-bound book. Its cover was cracked and worn, with no title, and the pages inside were yellowed with age. The book felt cold in my hands, even through the dust. The handwriting was strange, and the symbols decorating the margins were unfamiliar. But what stood out the most was the inscription on the first page, written in careful, neat script. For those who dare to read, beware what you awaken. I chuckled under my breath, brushing it off as some old superstition. Curiosity got the better of me, and I started flipping through the pages. Most of it was in a language I didn't understand, but the drawings were unsettling, dark figures, strange creatures with twisted faces, symbols that seemed to pulse the longer I stared at them. Later that night, when I got home, I couldn't shake the feeling that the book was still calling to me. I sat down in my room and opened it again. This time I tried reading one of the chants aloud just for fun. The words felt heavy in my mouth, as if they weren't meant to be spoken. That's when the weird things started happening. At first, it was little things, the lights flickering, a cold draft sweeping through the room despite the windows being shut. But as the night wore on, it escalated. I heard faint whispers, like someone was standing right behind me, just out of reach. I would turn, but there was no one there. Then I saw it. Out of the corner of my eye, something dark shifted in the mirror on my dresser. My breath hitched as I forced myself to look directly at it. The reflection wasn't mine. It was something else, something shadowy, with hollow eyes staring back at me. I slammed the book shut, my hands trembling, but the noises didn't stop. The whispers grew louder, surrounding me, as if 100 voices were speaking at once. The lights flickered again, and then died, completely plunging my room into darkness. I grabbed my phone, the weak glow of the screen the only source of light. That's when I noticed the shadow in the corner, a tall, twisted figure, its outline barely visible in the dim glow. It wasn't moving, but it was watching me. I bolted out of the room, leaving the book behind. As I fled down the stairs, I heard a soft, mocking laugh, coming from everywhere and nowhere at once. I thought closing the book would stop it, but I was wrong. It's been days now, and I can still feel something watching me, waiting. And every night, that figure in the corner gets a little closer. I barely slept that first night, huddled on the couch downstairs, every creak of the house sending my heart into a frenzy. When morning finally came, the oppressive feeling in the air had lightened, but I still couldn't shake the unease. I told myself it had been my imagination, a trick of the shadows, my mind playing games after reading something creepy before bed. But deep down, I knew it wasn't that simple. I avoided going back upstairs until the afternoon, dreading what I might find. The daylight made me feel safer, and I figure if anything strange was going to happen, it wouldn't during the day. I forced myself up the stairs, back to my room. The door creaked open slowly, revealing the book still sitting on my bed, where I had left it. It looked completely harmless in the daylight, just a dusty, old book with worn pages. But something in me screamed to get rid of it. I grabbed it with shaking hands, the leather cool and unsettling against my skin, and hurried downstairs. I tossed it into the trash bin outside, slamming the lid shut as if that would keep whatever it was sealed away. But even as I walked back inside, I felt it like a weight pressing down on my chest, something pulling at the edges of my mind. The feeling of being watched hadn't left. In fact, it felt stronger now, like a presence lurking just out of sight. That night I was restless. Every time I closed my eyes, I dreamed of the attic, of the chest, and the book. The dark figure from my mirror appeared again in my dreams, its hollow eyes burning into mine. Each time I woke up, drenched in sweat, the feeling of being watched was still there. I could feel it, somewhere in the room. It wasn't until I heard the soft thud outside that I realized the book wasn't gone. My heart pounded as I stood frozen in bed, listening. Another soft thud, this time closer, the trash bin. I scrambled to the window and looked down. The bin had been knocked over, its contents scattered across the driveway, but the book was sitting upright in the middle, perfectly intact. I couldn't breathe. How had it? I didn't even finish the thought before a whisper, faint but unmistakable, echoed in my room. You read what was never meant to be spoken. I whipped around, eyes wide, but there was no one there. Just the stillness of my room and the growing darkness in the corners. I flicked on every light I could, but it didn't matter. The shadows seemed alive now, crawling, stretching unnaturally across the walls, reaching for me. I needed to get rid of the book, for real this time. Not just throw it away, burn it, destroy it, anything. The next day I grabbed the book, now cold to the touch, like I said, took it to the backyard with a box of matches. I threw it into the fire pit and lit the match. The flame danced on the tip for a moment, casting flickering shadows across the yard. I tossed it onto the book. At first, nothing happened. The match fizzled out. I lit another and another, but the leather wouldn't burn. It just sat there, untouched by the flames, as though mocking my attempts. I felt something brush against the back of my neck, like icy fingers trailing over my skin. I spun around, but the yard was empty. That night the dreams were worse. The shadow figure wasn't just watching anymore, it was moving closer. Every time I blinked, it seemed to shift, edging nearer, its twisted form looming over me. When I woke, the room was filled with whispers, louder than before, overlapping, like dozens of voices all speaking at once. They weren't coming from inside my head, they were coming from the corners of my room, from the mirror, from the dark spaces under my bed. I grabbed my phone, desperately searching for any explanation, anything that could tell me how to stop this. As I scrolled through forums and old articles, I stumbled upon a single, cryptic entry in an occult discussion board. You cannot simply destroy what you've awakened. Once the words are spoken, the door is opened. The only way to close it is to finish the book. I stared at the screen, my blood running cold. Finish the book. That's what it wanted. The book wasn't haunting me. It was trying to make me read it, but I knew deep down if I kept reading, something far worse would be unleashed.